Welcome back, and thanks for being here with us. We're moving now to the next interview of the day. This time around, it is not a music artist. We have a mural artist online to have this conversation with. Hello, good morning, Millicent. Hi, good morning. It's so good to have you here.
Same here. I'm honored.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh,
Hi, Millicent.
that's nice, Millicent.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine. And you?
I'm all right. It's good to have you here. You look absolutely beautiful as well.
Thank you. I'm honored.
Awesome.
All right, Millicent. From your bio, we see muralist, textile designer, and visual creative. Can you walk us through this entire creative process that you're in?
Okay. Thank you so much. Um, I've always been a lover of art. Growing up as a child, I've had my siblings. That's my brothers, who they've always loved art. So they would always get a pen and a paper and draw, and then they would tell me to come join them. We had our books torn every time. And even though my dad never liked it, he loved the fact that we were trying to be creative. So he encouraged us. And years go by, they stopped this passion we found as a child.
Oh,
Yeah.
You
And
guys
even though
grew up.
I yeah,
Go on, please.
okay. And even though I'd always wanted to be a surgeon, inspiration from Ben Carson, I just didn't know how to, you know, put it all together. I mean, art, and then there's medicine. I always
wow.
wondered, how do I?
How do you
Yeah,
imagine?
Wow.
exactly.
Okay.
Until I I found that there's something called being an artist. You know how it is back then in school, where they'll ask you, what do you want to become? And it's always, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor. There was nothing like, I want to be an artist, I want to be a photographer. I mean, back then. So I was completely lost till I found out that, yes, there is something called being an artist. And I just didn't stop. I didn't give up. I kept posting on Instagram. I mean, something, it should be around 2018, yeah, or 19, that I got a DM from someone, Lick on Skills, and the rest is history today. Thank
Wow.
God. Thank
Wow.
God for that. Yeah.
These are very
Awesome.
beautiful works of art.
Very,
Very
very,
Thank
beautiful.
you.
very. At that point in
Thank you.
time, when you mentioned that you actually wanted to be a surgeon, I just remember that anyone who actually read or listened to the story of Ben Carson would want to be a doctor. At that point in time, very crazy stories there. But of course, you are a muralist, which simply means that art lives. I mean, your art lives in public spaces. But for you, what do you believe a wall should do as an artist?
Okay. As an artist, because art is a form of communication, if your art cannot send a message, then you're missing the real importance of art. Art is a form of communication. So there should be an expression from whatever you do that even a blind person, a deaf person can understand what you're trying to pass across. So art is a form of expression. And then
Right.
it's also it heals. It has a way of healing. It's connected to medicine in its own way.
That's right.
You know. Yeah, that's what I think.
Or you found a way to connect it, your passion and then maybe your calling, basically. But you're also in the textile industry. So how do you balance the difference, from mural art, which of course your public art, and then to wearable functional art, which is the textiles? How do you balance this both?
Okay. So what I do is I do the morals mostly for clients. That's
Okay.
client. It is not my personal practice. But textile design is my personal practice, which is what I studied in school. All thanks to Yava College of Technology.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, but tech.
And yes, that's where and I've been able to put in all what I've learned from, the painting aspect of art as a painter. There are principles of design as an artist, and it doesn't really differ from what we have with all aspects of art. So it's not so difficult to just infuse that into wearable art. So what I do is I paint on clothing too, from what we have on the walls, like the murals.
Oh,
Just
wow.
that the concept is different. Most times they're abstract and so on. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
That's nice. We know that every artist has their style. Do you have
Yeah.
a style? What's your style generally?
Oh, the motifs. I mean, you cannot see my artworks without the motifs, the African motifs, even though it's an artwork that has to do with letters, right? Letterings. There will still be that sign, the horizontal, the vertical lines, and
Oh
all
yeah.
that. So they just they have to look African,
Oh, so
in
you're
a
pan African,
Yeah.
pro African.
exactly. So there's nothing like just doing a plain wall for me. You just have to see that expression. That's why Millie Motives. It's a brand. Yeah.
To brand.
Wow.
That's amazing. Also, what legalities exist in this field? Because Nigeria is actually growing in the creative space.
Yeah.
Usually, we didn't see people really have value for
Art.
paintings, artwork as much as they do right now. And just like you said, even in the FCT, we
Yeah.
see these artworks,
On the
under
street,
bridges
yeah.
and the streets and what have you. So, to protect your work, what exists in this field?
Okay. Okay. So every art comes with your signature. As an artist,
Okay.
you are protected once you have your signature on your art piece. But arts like this, because it's commissioned for a client, I mean, it belongs to that client already. You've done it. It's for public spaces. But once it's your personal artwork, the ones you take to gallery and all, until it's bought, you know, either by an art collector or an art lover, it's still yours, and then you have every right to sue anybody that plagiarizes your work.
Okay.
Of course, there is inspiration that people can get from your work, because artists, I would say art is never perfect and there is nothing new. Let me put that way. But then there can be creatives who pick from your style, from your yeah. But then there is nothing like plagiarism, and then someone having to plagiarize your work and
Yeah.
still have
And still have
their signature on it. You have the right to sue.
to
You
sue.
are protected, yes, if that ever happens.
Okay.
Okay.
So on an average, what does your artwork cost? An original artwork from you. And what is the market value of this art? Do you think that we value art enough here now to peg the actual prices or the amount for them?
Yeah. I would say in recent times, yes, art lovers are becoming more in our country, and people are coming to really understand the value of art.
Yeah.
There is something as art that is printed. There's something as art that doesn't come original, even though they are original from their owners, right? But then there is something called originality, which has to do with when you are the signature of that art, when it's hand painted or hand drawn or handmade, or yeah, as the case may be. So I would say people are coming to know the difference.
Okay.
People are coming to know. That's how you know that Nigeria is evolving in
Okay.
the art space. Unlike before, people don't know. They just come, they print a portrait for somebody, print it, and then they value it and think it's art. But now you can see clients telling you that it has to be hand painted, it has to be it has to be hand drawn, even though it's a pencil work. And for arts like that, I would say it all depends on your design. Your design. Talking about pricing
Yes.
now, right?
Yes. Yes.
It all depends on the design, the colors involved, the concept, because designs has to do with how intricate, how long it's going to take, the more paint you're going to use, and all. For walls like this, I would say from 350 upward. Depend, like I said, it all depends on the design.
Okay.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah, then for the clothing, just 50K upward, 25, still on designs.
Still on design.
So
What of the
design. Yeah.
portraits, the portrait ones that you can hang in your home?
Okay. So for the pencil work, I personally charge 200, 200 to 50. Then paintings, 350 upward.
Okay,
All
that's
right.
good to know.
So have you ever been in a situation, right, where your work was undervalued or misunderstood? And how did you respond to that very moment? That's smirk on your face. Yeah.
Goodness, yes, I have. And that happens mostly when it's a portrait and someone says, it's just drawing. I mean, you can just draw this thing and give it to me.
Right.
So that statement alone, it does a lot to us artists.
Yeah.
I have been in that space over and over again. And there was this time someone called me for quotation and measurement school, and I got there was a very big school. Now, trying to take measurements it wasn't even easy. I had to go with my team.
Right.
That's how big it is. And after everything, when I gave out the quotation, she was like, "I mean, is it not just to just come and paint the wall?" And I was like, "What?" And then we're talking about the same people that if you end up doing a job that is not pleasing to them, you refund them in full.
Oh,
This is why before we do a job, we do the mock-up, and then you see exactly what your wall is going to look like, even before we start.
okay.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
good
that's
to know.
beautiful. Yeah.
Right. If you're going to, because I always like the question of when you see a younger artist or someone
Yeah.
in the same field
wants
as
to start
yourself, pricing is always difficult. Valuing your work is always difficult for people like that. What would you say for an emerging artist?
Okay. I would always say that they should, first off, do not be discouraged. Keep going, because that's a big discouragement for some people. Keep going, and then you have to brand, like you have to be the brand. You have to be a brand, in the sense that you don't limit yourself to whatever you want or whatever you're already doing. You need to expand.
Okay.
You need to grow. When people see how well you've put yourself together, trust me, I don't think the story will be different.
Be different.
Yes.
All
Coming
right.
from there. Yeah.
All right. Thank you
100%.
so much, Millicent Ajulo, aka
Thank
Millie
you.
Motifs. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining us on the show. Hopefully, we'll get an artwork. What do you
Yeah.
think, Victor?
I think that's gonna be nice
Wow.
actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully
I'll be
we'll
so
get something
happy.
for this.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us on
Right.
the conversation. Do have an amazing day ahead.
Amen.
All right,
Bye.
bye for now.
All right.
Well,
Well,
interesting.
Millicent is quite pleasant.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
is it an artist thing? Or maybe an
just
artist
maybe,
thing.
just maybe. She brings color to the work with her works and all of that. So it's just okay to also bring that pleasant nature on the screen as well.
Well, I do see her artwork is quite clean. I do
Yeah.
see the passion and the, should I say, enthusiasm with which she does the job, and I absolutely love it. But yeah, Nigeria is starting to appreciate art a lot.
Oh, yes.
And the stories she shared about those pictures people go to Pinterest and paint
Yeah.
up and frame it, and then they say it's artwork.
art.
It's totally different. And with pricing is always the same story. Is it not just this? Is it not just that? Just do it. And something she said that I hold on to is the fact that if you value your work, if and when you start to value your work,
Yeah.
people would see what you have seen and eventually buy into the idea of paying you exactly what you're worth.
Very true. And that's the reason why you need to constantly bring in quality in what you are doing. Because again, people will eventually pay for the quality of work that you're doing, the beauty, and of course the creativity that comes around that particular work. And you can only get there from the place of consistency and setting proper structure for yourself as individuals. Now, in this time and era now, we've seen various artists now get to display their artworks and all of that. You can get onto an art gallery, right? And you just see beautiful artworks that has been done by these artists. And truly, I think Nigeria has gotten to that place where we are beginning to now love and appreciate art for what it is. And big ups to every artist there bringing color to our world.
All right, this is where we wrap it up for Rapid Done right here. Remember, all the episodes and interviews that we've had throughout the week you can find on our YouTube page at official Rapid TV. And of course, we are active across social media platforms. Do catch up with us and have briefs of our programs right there. It is at Rapid TV on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok,
Twitter.
and X. It is at Rapid TV. Our website is www.abnradiotv.com. Remember, because it's weekend does not mean we would not have our program still. You can click on the website and then you follow all of the amazing programs we have lined up for you at the weekend. 11 o'clock, we will be having the green line here. You definitely want to catch up on that as well. My name is Mata Alu.
And my name is Victor. Okay, well, we'll see you next week.